I'll come back to it in a second. Um, so so DualShock was it was born as into an idea of what we wanted to do is make a low budget horror film. Let's shoot something for £10,000. I think I sort of spouted out, and let's make a lot of money. By that point, obviously, it was in that sort of era, we were still reeling on the successes of films like the Blair Witch Projects, which had been shot very cheap and then made a very large profit. So you can make things from that. DualShock had this notion of being a low budget film. And we began to write, and as we began to actually write, the one thing we actually had a problem with is we began to write more and more, and the budget, you could just tell as every time we wrote a scene out, it was just increasing and increasing. And in 2007, when we went to go and start touting for funding, we had a lot of success, and we had possibly maybe too much initial success. We had an agency or funding body that said that we could actually see a large amount of money being invested into it. And I suppose we began to get very complacent that our idea was too good to even that sort of idea, and it was just it wasn't a perfect script that we had as a film. So DualShock evolved from its initial low-budget horror film sort of origins, and obviously it went through a course of time where it was going into this low-budget horror film, into like a large-budget horror film, into these franchise different ideas, to suddenly having the rug pulled from under it very quickly back in 2010. So we had to think on our feet of what we were going to do with DualShock. We had all this work that we'd put into it. We didn't want to just see it just die and not actually get made. So it was round about that time that Toby and myself were talking about television as a possible potential, or separating it and splitting it up into parts. And I suppose we were watching a lot of TV. TV is something I personally love to, anticipation of watching the next episode and getting excited about. So we began to look at DualShock as a TV series, and we cut it down into parts. And we were doing really well at that. We started to put together a TV Bible, and we put together a script for the pilot episode. And we were ready to actually take it further, and when Toby actually ended up getting a job on One Last Walk, so we spent a year from 2011 to 2012, myself personally sort of cutting it and getting it right, and obviously Toby working through scripts and directing it and shooting it. We'd finished One Last Walk in 2012, or Toby had finished it and they had it screened at the festival, and then I think we went back to DualShock. I was aching to get back to it, and at the time we'd hired a producer, Eugene, who obviously I think at that point just thought we were the biggest charlatans on earth, because I talked to him about the project in 2010. He was on board, and the next thing I know I disappeared for a year on another project. So I thought he just thought, what the hell am I working with here? So I made a post on Facebook, a very simple post. It was just showing the TV Bible, the pilot script, and a few other bits of concepts that we were working on. And it wasn't in any intention for anybody. I just tagged Eugene, Toby, our couple of camera operators that were involved in the project, and just saying, we're almost done, we're ready to get this project on the ground. And out of nowhere, the internet that evening just lit up for me. I had people I'd talked about DualShock for years suddenly liking this picture and saying, my God, this is still happening. I'm really excited. I can't believe you're still making it. And so it was unintentional audience that suddenly kicked us up the arse to make us think differently.